we're finding out that not only are we a country which has the highest incarceration rate in the world, but also that it's very expensive and it's very counterproductive. The rate of women being incarcerated has gone up quite spectacularly in the last 2 decades. Now, most of that, I'll use a percentage which is in my mind, it may not be the absolutely right one, but it's quite close. 85% of the women who are incarcerated are in there for possession or some form of drug trafficking. They are invariably not the high-level drug traffickers. They are what we used to call, when I was in court, and we had many of these cases, the mules. I mean, they carry, and they usually have had some kind of a dysfunctional relationship with a male who is at a higher level in the drug trade, and they're caught at it. And they are given these mandatory minimum sentences, which I know the Constitution Project has come out against, and which almost I think anybody in their right mind has got to come out against when they see what the results are. The mandatory minimums, which are, possession of a small amount if you've got some kind of a prior offense, et cetera, will earn you up to 15 or sometimes higher numbers of years in prison. And I have actually visited with a good friend of mine who does prison work several times some of the nearby women's prisons. And you will find people in there, first of all, about large percentage, way over 50% of those women have young children at home. They were the primary caretaker of those children. So you're not just putting the woman in prison, you're putting the woman, and you're, in many cases, consigning the children, because the statistics show that the children of mothers incarcerated have a much, much higher likelihood of themselves running afoul of the criminal justice system, or of getting into other forms of delinquency or addiction. One young man who was 25 years old, and he did make 2 marijuana sales. He deserved to be punished for violating the law, there's no question about that. But he also, it turns out, had a gun, not, I think, on his person, but nearby, unused, etc. Okay, I'm not against punishing for all that. But he had to be given, and the judge worried about it a great deal, something like 65 years in prison. The judge pointed out that was twice as much as the judge, had given to a murderer the week before. Murder doesn't have a mandatory minimum on it. So, I think that, we have just sort of gotten off the deep end. When I worked in the War Crimes Commission, I will tell you, I've noted this elsewhere, sometimes people were sentenced for having, say, run torturing prison camps. This is in the international sphere, where hundreds or thousands of people were starved and were beaten and were sometimes killed, etc., found guilty of that, and they'd be given sentences of 15 years or something. And I'm thinking, gee, if you sold 2 ounces of cocaine or something like that, you'd be given twice that in the United States. When people are worried about jobs and that sort of thing, it's pretty hard to get them focused on an even more disadvantaged part of the population. The economics, ironically, have worked a little bit in the favor of reform, because state governments simply can't afford to build any more prisons. It's just economically feasible. As a result, you're finding, I think, some governors and perhaps other state officials who are looking for other ways. Somebody once said, reform is not for the sprinter, it's for the long-distance runner. And there's no question, because we were fighting some of these battles 45 years ago when I first entered the arena, and we're still fighting them now.